here we are, this unit of 12 people protecting your constitutional privacy rights to the extent of our capabilities. Alas, I'm not sure we're totally successful. Not only do we use our enforcement powers, but we also use a lot of other powers. When the Attorney General makes best practice recommendations, they get a lot of attention. And we find that a lot of, for example, privacy attorneys find it useful in advising clients. So we're happy to provide that kind of recommendations and that kind of educational effort. There are more ways than enforcement to get to privacy respectful behavior. We also, of course, know that enforcement, judiciously used, can be very educational. And we do devote some time and effort to educating consumers as well, but a good deal of the time, the power to respect privacy is out of the hands of us as individuals. Yes, there are many things we can do to protect ourselves, but a lot of our information is out of our hands, and it's other entities that we feel need education and encouragement. So I'm going to talk about the Internet of Things as an example of how privacy protection might work in a legal regime, how it does, how it doesn't, and how it might. So you know what the Internet of Things is. Here's a picture of some of the things. We mean objects, devices that connect to the Internet and that collect and transmit data. A lot of the data is related to some degree or another to an individual, and so often enough it's personal information. Sometimes it's not necessarily personal information. So a couple of examples. We're becoming more and more familiar with this. The power grid, both electric. This is electric, but gas as well. I'm sure everybody who lives here is aware of all of the issues about smart meters. There was quite a lot of concern when they were first being put in by PG&E locally. There are clearly many benefits to be had from this, from allowing us to have make more efficient use of our energy, to enable the managers of the grid to manage it more effectively and more efficiently. There are, however, certain privacy concerns about providing information from the sanctity of our homes out to third parties who are perhaps, in the case of gas and electric utilities, don't have a huge experience in dealing with sensitive personal information compared to other industries like healthcare, let's say. So being concerned about privacy is kind of new to them. There is little or no legal restriction on how this data can be collected and used. And intimate facts can be discerned from data on our use of energy in our homes when we're home away, whether we have an alarm system, whether the alarm system is working, whether certain appliances that could be connected to the smart grid are on or off. So it's not inconsequential. This jolly little picture of all the ways that our homes can take advantage of the Internet to do a lot of things to make our lives simpler and smarter and all that. Smart refrigerators could suggest recipes based on food at hand. Connected entertainment devices in the living room can create 3D sounds, and they can follow you from room to room, as we keep seeing advertised now. Smart books in the bedroom could be connected to a 3D reality system and project for you. Smart clothes could throw themselves into the washer or indicate that it's time for them to go and wash. Smart clothes could even take your temperature or sense that you might be ill. I'm not even telling you about what the toilets can do. There are privacy concerns here, again, in that this is in our home and intimate details of our lives can be deduced, inferred from this data that goes into the hands of any number of third parties. There's the TrendNet case that the FTC brought a while ago with you're familiar with that, with a baby monitoring video camera that was advertised to be really secure. Unfortunately, it wasn't. People could hack into it through the web and posted the pictures of the baby's room on the web. Some of these devices, thermostats, etc., operate through mobile apps, so you have the security issues of the mobile ecosystem added to the intrusion into your home. Connected appliances. This is an illustration of when the Samsung TV last year, or this year actually, started getting attention because its voice recognition system, in order to learn how to recognize your voice as those systems work, was recording what you were saying when you're in the room. So it's like you have paid for and installed a bug in your house that's going to transmit all of your conversations to Samsung and who knows what else. They clarified that that was not what they were doing, or that they would not be using this information, and gave people opportunities to opt out of using the voice controls. So there are some concerns there. Intelligent transportation systems, not just connected cars, that you know, from the gamut of autonomous vehicles to just vehicles that can be smarter than we are about driving, which, as it turns out, is easy to do, be smarter than we are about driving, with 360-degree cameras, et cetera, sensing other cars, and really take better care of us with us having some role, but also the whole transportation grid, the vision that the transportation agencies have been working on for decades, is the whole grid being connected, so the car can talk to roadside things and cameras and lights, and all of it can be monitoring everything and keep us all safe and be efficient, and you know, who knows? We've seen clearly some of the weaknesses of this with the recent hack of the Jeep. Was it a Jeep? Yes. And the whole issue of how you do the handoff in an autonomous vehicle is one of the real challenging points about an emergency. Oops, take it. You know, you've been sitting there watching a movie or looking at your phone because it's been driving itself, and suddenly it's in stress, and the current mode of these autonomous cars is, in that situation, the driver is given control again. So that can be challenging. Again, our car is kind of an intimate place. When we're in our car, we feel kind of alone. Yes, we're visible, but we feel kind of alone. And the kind of data that's being collected from our cars, even now, even when our cars are not so smart, they still have various devices in them that are collecting certain kinds of data, always including location. It is some concern where that data is going, who's doing what with it. Medical devices. Anybody who saw that episode of Homeland knows that there are some real serious issues about securing these devices. I don't know that particular hacking into the pacemaker is necessarily possible, but could be. And we can see the issue of being the potential of the vulnerability of devices that are regulating our bodies, that this is a serious concern. And on the lighter side, even things, you know, like this, which isn't going to kill me if somebody hacks it, but it's recording my location, it's doing a bunch of things about me that I don't necessarily want posted on the World Wide Web or used in various ways. So really, to say the Internet of Things makes it sound like it's sort of a subset of something, but in fact, it's the Internet. It's the Internet of everything. Eric Schmidt, Google CEO, said someplace recently that soon the Internet will disappear, that it will be like the electric grid is. So we don't think, I think I'll plug into the electric grid. You think, I think I'll have some light. So it's not, I think I'll go online. It's just, I'm going to do this, and poof, we're on the Internet. We won't even be aware of it. I've seen this figure of the 75 billion connected devices by 2020. There's something like 12.5 billion now things connected to the Internet, including PCs. I've also seen a 50 billion by 2020. So anyway, it is a lot. So looking at it from a large, somewhat dystopian perspective, what this means is the whole world is becoming increasingly full of sensors that are monitoring and collecting data on us all the time, everywhere, and doing things with it. So different parties are doing different things, and it's kind of invisible to us, and we have limited, if any, control over a lot of it. There are, some horrifying potential here. There's the panopticon picture, where the idea of constant surveillance as an intentional behavior modifier. If we know we're always being surveilled, we'll behave in certain ways and not in other ways. The matrix, where people are nodes in the network, and the behavior collected, the data collected is used to predict behavior and take action on it. That's Minority Report. Matrix, just everybody as a node. So there are some large as well as small concerns about these things. So what does the law say about this? How can the law protect us in the Internet of Everything, or the Internet of Things? So California is known as a leader in consumer privacy and consumer protection in general. And some of our long-standing consumer protection and even criminal laws would apply to much of what goes on in the Internet of Things. That computer intrusion is against the law in California, as well as there's federal laws as well. Some of the privacy laws, like the one requiring a privacy policy on online services, would likely apply to many of the devices in the Internet of Things. Exactly where that privacy policy would go is interesting to contemplate. We have also, since 2004, passed some specific laws aimed at some of the things connecting to the Internet, some of them related to cars. What these different laws do, and toll systems, fast track, what these laws generally do is require these entities that are collecting the information to have a privacy policy and disclose somewhere in the owner's manual, whatever, somewhere, what kind of data they're collecting and who they're sharing it with, just very generally. The auto black box one goes a little farther. These are the event data recorders, which are detecting your speed and stuff in an accident. That's their purpose. So it actually has some use limitations. The data can only be used for auto safety, accident-related issues, not for any other purposes. But most of them are just disclosure laws. We've got some laws related to the smart grid. Again, pretty much disclosure. They have to have privacy policies. They have to tell you in various places what they're collecting, what they're doing with it. We just passed a law that will take effect in January about connected TVs that says that any conversations recorded for voice recognition purposes, that data may not be used for targeted advertising. Its initial version of the bill was to say it may not be used for any purpose other than learning about speech recognition, but it got whittled down as it went through the sausage mill. So we've got a few laws. They're basically using what has been for a number of years the sort of mechanism in the US of privacy protection known as notice and choice. Tell people what you're doing with their information and they have a choice once they know. So this regime has a lot of weaknesses. In the Internet of Things, we can see there are some serious problems with notice, and where do you give notice on a toaster? There are, even when the online website situation, which is the best situation for providing notice, we know that people don't read privacy policies. If they do read them, they don't tell you much. They have a lot of words, but they don't tell you much. They use weasel words like "we may share with affiliates and other companies of high quality to improve your experience," or something like that. You don't actually know what's going on, even if you do read them. And in any case, the choices are largely a good deal of the time, are illusory. The choice is take it or leave it, use this thing or don't use it. This is what we're going to do, more or less. You have a choice. Don't do it. So looking at the Internet of Things and the much more pervasive collection and use of data, this model of notice and choice seems inadequate. The monetization of data is pushing more and more to a, collect first, ask later, infinite retention because it might be useful someday. So we've been looking for a new kind of framework for how can we allow privacy to be protected and allow the benefits of the Internet of Things and the benefits of technology to be available to us, because there obviously are. I am speaking of the shadowy side, but I think the benefits are obvious. So an approach that we're looking at right now is this, sort of three basic things. First of all, more choices. So the choice now is take it or leave it. You don't like my privacy policy? Too bad. So how about degrees of choice? So we see some of this in some mobile devices on the use on location data. So you can choose, I will allow very granular collection of my location data, less granular. I can use the certain functions without having location data collected at all. I can choose app by app whether I'm going to allow it to collect location data. I can choose whether to have it collected in the background or only when I'm using the app, if it depends on location data. So it's not saying don't do this, but more choices, more gradations of choice, something other than all or nothing. And then defaults are obviously really critical. And I'm hoping a lot of you are engineers and are into this default issue. The default generally now is everything is turned on, all the data is collected, everything is allowed, and you have to make some sort of an effort to go in and exercise what choices might be there to back that off a little bit. So the alternative is set the default to be more privacy respectful, which not only is good from a privacy perspective, but it actually would be an incentive to clearer, more effective communication about what is being done with the data, because then the challenge, the mission of the communication is to persuade you to allow. So now the benefits have to be discussed and the facts have to be presented more. It's flipping the incentive instead of obfuscation to clarification. Yeah.
So it's basically, we've had this debate before with opt-in versus opt-out.
Yeah. Yes.
In other words, your argument
yes.
for
opt-in.
For opt-in. I'm just curious if you think that, in the past, opt-in and opt-out was really framed around basically allowing access to your email address, traditionally. This is a very different environment. I'm just wondering if you think there's more possible that we might be more successful in making the opt-in argument when the context has changed, and it's not just, give us your email address. It's a much more broader set of
Yeah. Where the original context, as you said, was or sharing for marketing use. So that was all we're talking about is advertising. Yes, no, I don't want you to advertise. I want you to advertise or not advertise to me or allow others to. When you start moving into the physical world of the Internet of Things, then it's both more surprising that they're collecting data, which kind of gets people's attention, but also it's more, the repercussions are more physical, which is easier to grasp. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it's a broader set of data.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just such a, I think in the opt-in versus opt-out debates of 10 years ago, it was much easier to kind of to minimize it in a sense. Like it's just,
Yeah, it's preferences.
Yeah.
Privacy preferences.
This seems like, I can't imagine this occurring without legislation, quite honestly. But this seems like there's a more robust case to make that the opt-in versus opt-out debate is no longer just this simple, we know the basics of who you are. There's a lot more potential here.
And the challenge to legislating, I think, or one of them is what is the privacy respectful default really varies depending on what the device and what the data is. And so that's where the more choices also comes in. They go together. And more choices is it's the nudge principle. You know that book, Fowler and Sunstein? Yeah. You don't take things off the table, but you add to them. And then, finally, security. Security first in the Internet of Things, because there is so much physical risk that this is an argument that is easier to make as well. The challenge in data security, of course, which I guess is what you're all about at the center, is what is reasonable security? There are some specifics in the Internet of Things where you want to secure not just data, but access to devices. But then that's true in online world at large. Not only do you want to secure the data, but you want to secure access to the network and the devices and everything. So defining a reasonable standard is challenging. There are plenty of standards out there. There are plenty of laws out there, and yet there has not been a coalescence around this, at least at a minimum, must be done. And that's something we're very interested in testing and pushing against in the Attorney General's office. So in closing, if you haven't read the FTC's reports on the Internet of Things, I recommend it, particularly the one about building security into the Internet of Things. In their overall, the one on the left, they are still using the notice and choice framework, and they come up with some creative suggestions on how notice could be given in when you can't attach it to a device, but how you can make it available as part of the turn-on startup mechanism by directing people in various ways to the web. So just go to ftc.gov, and you can find both of those by searching on their website. Their website's a little difficult, but there's good stuff in here. So that is my 20 minutes. And I'm very interested in hearing from you what you think of how to protect privacy and how to protect data in the Internet of Things.